So guys, if we want to grow our shoulders, we have to first recognize that we have three heads to our shoulder. We've got the anterior deltoid, front delts. Obviously, we get a lot of that activation in our presses, horizontal incline, overhead presses. So I want to focus more in on the medial deltoids, aka side delts, and the posterior deltoids, aka the rear delts there. Those are really going to give that cap to the shoulders from the side view, front, and from behind there. So as we know, the front delts are still a very important part of the shoulder. We do get a lot of this in that horizontal incline presses, dips, and regular overhead press. So as you can see, I'm doing it here with a more narrow grip, with the elbow sort of tucked in at the bottom. That's going to hit more of that front delt. We're still going to get some good side delt activation here, believe it or not, but it's not as emphasized. The ratio is definitely more towards the front delt than it is the side delt. And a little bit of upper chest is also working in that one there. So what I say is, if we want to isolate the side delts more, let's go for a bit of a wider grip, and instead of pressing in that frontal plane, let's do that classic BNP, behind the neck press. So as you can see here, that mechanical tension is now a lot more lined up to those side delts. We're also taking any sort of force production away from the upper chest, which means the weight will need to come down here. You can't, if you're overhead pressing 60 kilos, you probably don't want to jump straight to 60 kg BNP, let alone the fact that there's a little bit more stress on the joint potentially here because you're more flared, so there's less room in the shoulder joint. But this is one that is fantastic. You want to build up slowly. I personally have been able to add a whole lot of mass to my shoulders, which I don't believe are a genetic strong point for me. I'm definitely more sort of chest and lat dominant. Behind the neck press has essentially become my prime mover for the side delts. It's been my main compound lift. And what I love about it is, unlike lateral raises, it's a lot easier to progressive overload on. You're not stalling all the time, getting up to the 20-pound dumbbells, 10 kg dumbbells, and it's like, oh, this is getting hard. And then you start cheating the form. But I've been able to progressively overload, just like with an overhead press essentially, but with the behind the neck press. And the side delts have been seeing that transformation. Now, if you can't quite get into that position, what we can do is we can use dumbbells. And as you can see, I'm pressing here in that regular sort of more tucked in the frontal plane style. But if we come out to the sides now, sort of between this and a behind the neck press, if you keep those dumbbells more in line with the head and you flare the elbows, you will be able to hit those side delts more. There's a bit more freedom here as well. Just if you struggle to behind the neck press without any shoulder niggles, the dumbbell variation, going a bit lighter but flaring, can be very helpful. So now I want to take a look at the rear delts. So this is a pretty good example of how you can see that rear deltoid head of the shoulder sort of poking out. When you do a back lat spread, for example, you can see that adds a lot of three-dimensionalness to your shoulder. So we got our regular sort of rows, tucked in, medium width grip, shoulder width, whatever it is. Chest supported rowing, they're often more lat focused and they're more mid, sometimes upper trap focused. You're still getting a nice amount of rear delts in these, don't get me wrong. But what I reckon is, let's flare the elbows, let's line that mechanical tension up with those rear delt fibers more, and let's pull more to the sternum or the lower chest. So you see here, my elbows are more flared. That tension is really put on my rear delts. This takes a lot of the lats out of the movement. I barely feel my lats at all when I'm doing this, but my rear delts scream. So again, if you want to specialize rear delts, or you want to add this in as a finisher to the end of your pull day, a bit of a burnout, again, keeping the reps higher, I believe, sort of in that 15 to 20 reps, couple of sets. This is an awesome way to burn out the rear delts instead of just doing your typical rear delt flies. So I always love to finish shoulders with your typical Lou raise or your super range of motion lateral, whatever you want to call it, whoever coined it first. But this is awesome. I find going a bit lighter, obviously, going all the way up to the top and having the palms facing in front of you at the top rather than, completely pronating your hand can be a lot easier on the shoulder. But you get an awesome burn here. It hits a lot of the traps as well, which is great. And yeah, side delts burn like crazy. And then right at the end, you can throw in a couple of those, typical lateral raises, length and partials to burn out and to finish. And with these exercises here, feel free to superset them too. That's an awesome option. If you want a bit of a bro day, maybe you do shoulders and arms on one day. That's a good bro day setup. You can superset behind the neck press, superset it with the super wide rowing. And then, yeah, you can chuck those super range of motion laterals in there to cap it off quite literally there. So these are the secret weapons, guys. Don't forget about them because they're not talked about a whole lot because people are afraid of them. But I think if you start light, especially with the behind the neck press, and build up, you'll find you can actually bulletproof your joint and build some awesome shoulder mass.